Hello and welcome to the WISER Women in the Spotlight interview series. I am Yvonne A. Jones, business strategist and personal business coach and founder of the 50 and WISER community on Facebook. Today, our WISER Woman in the Spotlight is Jodi Hinkle. Welcome, Jodi.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love chatting with you.
Thank you, as I do you. And it's really my delight to spotlight you today. We have quite a bit in common because we're both members of the Women's Prosperity Network. And that kind of serves as a foundation for both of us. We have been members for quite a while.
Yes.
And I also want to thank you for being an active member of the 50 and WISER community right here on Facebook.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure, actually.
Thank you. Now, before I introduce you, Jodi, I just want to take a moment to welcome our guests. And I see someone already has joined us. Thank you for joining us. Because of StreamYard, we only see ladies unless the person has given permission to Facebook. Facebook respects the privacy. And so Facebook won't give us any more information except Facebook user. But we'll take that for now. So I just want to welcome our guests. And if you have any questions for Jodi as she's talking, go ahead and post it in the chat. We may not have time to answer it today, but Jodi will be following up afterwards and she will answer your questions that you have at later today or tomorrow. Right, Jodi?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so who really is Jodi Hinkle? Well, Jodi's smile, as you can see, that reflects her joy when guiding women how to reach beyond they already know and discover how to revel in the pleasure of daily life. Now, as the founder of herquest.net, Jodi guides women through transitions by reacquainting them with the guidance of their personal emotions. By embracing the value of the unique personal journey that led to their now, each woman can identify the precise next steps to move them through emotional barriers and forward in life. Now, Jodi, you selected quite an intriguing topic, which is, it's kind of like I'm thinking in my mind, it's a three-part question. What? Who am I? What am I supposed to do while I'm becoming? Now, you spoke about the state of becoming. Would you like to talk about that first so that our listeners will understand exactly what you mean by when you refer to the state of becoming?
Sure. I would love to, actually. So we stand in our now. There's been a whole lifetime of experiences that have led to right now. Those experiences really influence our perspective and how we see the world. We all have goals, dreams, and desires. In having those, we are evolving throughout our lifetime of experiences. And so standing in my now, right now, and my goal is over here, in between the now and achieving the goal is the state of becoming. My goal is becoming from here to there. And so I am who I am right now, but I want to be over here. It can feel uncomfortable. I don't know how to do technology, let's say. That's an uncomfortable stance. I want to bring my business to that next level, and I don't understand or have the knowledge on how to implement a funnel and an opt-in and an email sequence to get folks in. And I'm in my now, that is causing me angst, anxiety. It's a problem. My solution is way over here. Now I know I can get there, but until I get there, that's the state of becoming. And for me, my experience always was, I'm standing here in this now and I want to be over here and it feels too uncomfortable. And so that uncomfortableness of I can't accomplish what I want to, or I don't believe in myself enough, or some limiting beliefs might be in the way, like I can't learn that technology, those kinds of things. That's emotional resistance. And our emotions have kind of gotten a bad rap, that we react to the world. We feel negative about a certain situation. That's a reaction. And what we're losing in that is understanding what that negative emotion is trying to indicate to us. And so this understanding, what do I do while I'm becoming, is really understanding emotional awareness and how to navigate the emotional manifestations from now to achieving my goal. Those emotional manifestations may begin with anxiety, fear, discouragement, but then we move ourselves up that emotional scale as we gain a little more confidence. We maybe take a class on technology and realize, I can do this and this now. And maybe that's going to allow me to see, because now I'm standing a little closer to my goal, a different perspective. And that gives me the courage to take that next step and the next step and the next step. So it's literally a step-by-step process that moving from my now, where I don't know how I'm going to get to this goal, and achieving a sense of confidence and a belief in myself that I can achieve this. And so it is truly an emotional journey to evolve to a place where I believe in myself, my deservability, my worthiness, my capability to have that goal, that desire come into fruition.
Excellent. Now, what I'm also hearing you say, along that path to that journey, there's a thing called fear.
Oh, yeah.
And so that thing that's called fear, while it can be a good thing, it can also be a bad thing because it prevents us from really taking the actions that we should. Mm-hmm. Now, how would you address that? And then share with us some strategies that would take someone effectively across the border, as it were, from where they are to where they really want to be, despite the emotional resistance.
Yes. So that fear that you're mentioning, I see that as immobilizing my ability to move forward, almost like paralyzed with fear. We've all heard that term. And so standing in my now, full of fear, trying to get to my goal, there is a tendency in our culture, women in particular, to push and push and push themselves through that fear in order to achieve their goal. And what I've learned and what has been incredibly valuable to my personal journey is that trying to push myself through a fear actually perpetuates it and makes it worse.
Interesting.
And so my encouragement to people is that when we're full of fear, that is an opportunity to take a step back and to adopt a very compassionate frame of mind with myself, almost soothing a sick friend or a small child through a nightmare, right? You would never get a child who woke up from a nightmare calling for help. You would never run in there and tell them how silly they're being and da-da-da-da-da. You would soothe them first, calm them down, and get them to a place where they could hear your words and your reassurance. And so we have an opportunity to be that person for ourselves. When we're standing in fear and we step back and slow down and be kind to ourselves, reassure ourselves, gain our emotional footing, and then take that next step, we end up marching up that scale. And so I might move from fear into skepticism. Well, skepticism is a whole lot better than fear. It's closer to optimism. It's closer to positive expectation. And it's closer to actually believing that I'm going to be able to do what I need to do to achieve that goal that I have in mind. And so HerQuest has a number of different tools I'm happy to share. People should be in touch. I'm happy to share both the emotional scale, which is this charging up the scale that I'm referring to, as well as I broke the scale into 4 different zones. So that when you're at the lower end of the scale in fear or grief or great depression, there's a certain way to take care of yourself. And the goal is to get out of zone 4 and get up to zone 3. And zone 3 is more about discouragement, right? Discouragement, and I actually have it right here. Hold on. It's probably going to go backwards if I try to hold it up, but I'm happy to share this with anybody who is interested. Zone 3 is more about discouragement, and I might even fall into some blame to somebody else that I can't do this because of you, right? That's still better than fear, because as you move from fear into discouragement, your next step is into zone 2, which is really just frustration or irritation, much better than fear. Our goal is to get to content. Content is like neutral. It's like neutral territory in your mind, and it allows new beliefs, new thoughts, new perspective to come into play. And I have a very different perspective of me and my capability when I'm standing in content. And that's really when life starts to get happy and we begin to believe in ourselves and we can take some steps, take some action. When we take action in that zone 1 where we're standing in content and maybe I really can do this, that's when action makes sense. When we take action from a place of fear, we're going to basically create more fear. And so by soothing ourselves up the scale till we get to that place of content and then take action, that's when the action matters and ultimately creates the steps that will lead to the fruition of that goal. And so meditation is a beautiful way to have a daily practice of meditation is a beautiful way to get started. But I also see the value of purposeful distraction. When I'm standing in one of those lower stances, the negative stances, and I purposely distract myself with something that's calming, soothing for me, the things that work for me. That might be a certain kind of music. It might be getting in the tub. It might be taking a 20-minute nap. It might be going out in nature. I know the things that work for me because I've really focused on figuring out what does shift my emotions. And then as soon as I'm in that stance of content, I can, or close to it, I can begin to take some actual action that will bring me closer to my destination, my desired destination. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it is making some sense. But I wrote a couple of phrases here.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to speak to that, because what I know for a fact as a coach is that women especially, and even besides being a coach, just listening to women, we are very hard on ourselves. And so getting to that, you spoke about being compassionate with oneself, being kind to oneself. And sadly, we're usually more compassionate to other people. And we're kinder to other people when they make mistakes. We forgive them and we excuse them. And we say, never mind, honey, it's all right.
Right.
But when it's ourselves, we tend to be, oh, you should have known better. We tend to berate ourselves. Now, speak about that for me, Jodi. How do we get ourselves out of that type of thinking so that we can get to the state of contentment you spoke about more easily?
Mm-hmm. So I think that inner critical voice is something that many women have in common. And it can come out as a continuous sort of undercurrent. Behind our day-to-day function, there's this inner critical voice where we have an interaction and we sort of beat ourselves up afterwards that it wasn't the best that it could be. Or we have a interaction which triggers a thought based on a past experience that's tied to some disappointment. And so the trigger of the disappointment brings the disappointment into my now, the disappointment in me. And then I start to criticize myself. All of that criticism is based on our experience until now. Interactions with people, experiences that I've had, the culture that I was born in and raised in, the family system that I was raised in. We're all taught certain things, right? And the people that teach us along the way, family members all the way through school, all the way through the judicial system, right? The laws, the governing laws. They're all created not with me in mind, right? They're created. My mother wanted me to do certain things because she was trying to get dinner on the table, right? It's not about what was right for me in that moment. And so as an adult, I get to make a different choice and step away from some of that critical thinking. And so the thoughts that are triggered are based on a belief system that we have. And so part of this journey, this emotional awareness, this journey, is becoming familiar with which beliefs I have that serve me and which don't. And the way that I know is how I feel. If I have a thought that triggers fear, it's limitation or lack in some kind of way. If I have a thought that triggers anger and resentment, that's tied to a past disappointment in some kind of way. And so it is literally a filtration process. An emotion comes up. We recognize that emotion is telling us that I have some sort of belief that is not serving me. And I soothe myself up the scale because when I'm standing in fear, that's not the time to figure it out. It is not the time to figure it out. I soothe myself up the scale. I get to content or higher, and I have the perspective that will allow me to understand my past circumstances in a different way. When I'm in a place of compassion and content and have soothed myself so that I feel good about who I am, I can look back at the past and gain a different understanding. But any time there is a thought, I have a little list here, let me pull it out. Any time that there is a thought of worry, lack, jealousy, distrust, anger, or disappointment, that is a thought from my reasoning mind who is trying to protect me. It's trying to protect me based on my past experiences. It thinks it's its job, but it's really disserving me. And so by really navigating our day-to-day life, by recognizing what our emotions are telling us and soothing ourselves till we get to that sweet spot, the effort, the action that we take will matter versus perpetuating the negative that we don't want.
That's powerful, very powerful. Now, Jodi, I am sure we have listeners, and thank you so much for being here. And we have a couple of comments here. That fear can drive us forward or hold us back depending upon our perceptions. And the other comment is, I agree, men and women are more forgiving with others than we are for ourselves. Yes, that we are with ourselves. So what I'd like to do, Jodi, is to ask you, first of all, where can we get more? If someone wants to get in contact with you, how can we do that? And I think you mentioned your website earlier. Give that to me, please, so I can type it right here.
That'd be great. So it's HerQuest, HerQuest.net.
HerQuest.net, okay. And is there an email address?
There is. It's J Hinkle, HINKLE, at HerQuest.net. And, I know that you have a lot of business owners here in this group, Yvonne, and I would encourage people to go to the website and take a look at the business strategies page. There is an opt-in there for a emotional stance assessment. So if we use our scenario of I'm standing here and my business goals are over here, my business plan is way over here, my emotional stance is going to influence whether I achieve my business goals or not. And so this opt-in on that website page, the business strategy page, it brings you through 4 different very short audios that helps you figure out what emotional stance you are as a business owner. And there's an opportunity to book a complimentary session after you take that assessment. And we can spend a half an hour talking about where you stand and how you could soothe yourself into the place of contentment so that the action you're taking matters and makes the difference that you're looking for.
Very good. Now, before I hit send, let me in the chat, I wrote emotional stance assessment, and that's on your website, on the business strategy page.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to do a send that right off there.
And if anybody can't locate it, there is a lot of information on my website. You know, one of those things that we do when we begin is to put everything, and it needs a little extrapolation. So if anybody feels lost, just shoot me an email and I'll send you the direct link to the assessment that I'm talking about.
Excellent. Well, Jodi, this was very informative. I am sure that after listening to this, that many of our listeners are going to have questions because you raised some really good points. And we know that mindset is a set of beliefs, but those beliefs are powerful. And as you mentioned, they could have started when we were children. They were influenced by our parents, by our teachers, by our siblings, by family. And the results are with us today, a lot of times subconsciously, so we don't even know why we behave a certain way, but it goes way back.
Yes.
So if anyone would like to speak with you further, I encourage them to reach out to you. And I want to thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed this conversation. I put these out they're on the pages, then I'll put them out on LinkedIn later. So if you're on LinkedIn, and not on just on Facebook, you can visit and see it there as well.
Wonderful.
So thank you again, Jodi. And ladies, if you are 50 and wiser and you have not yet joined our community, we encourage you to do so. It's the 50 and wiser community on Facebook. Thank you again, Jodi. Thanks to everyone who joined us live and those who will be listening to the replay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.